I never imagined my life would change when the billionaire's daughter took a leap of faith. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was heavy, charged with secrets, and I felt it in my gut. It started like any other day, but deep down, I sensed a storm was brewing. Amelia was radiant. Her laughter echoed off the walls, a sweet melody in our otherwise mundane lives. She was the light in the dark, the spark that ignited every dull moment. We were best friends, tied together by shared dreams and plans, but as her father's shadow loomed larger, the whispers grew louder. He was powerful. A titan in the business world. People revered him, but when Amelia spoke of him, I could see it in her eyes: fear. She felt trapped in a golden cage, her every move scrutinized. I thought I could save her, but I was just a girl with a broken family and dreams of escape. The day she called me out of the blue, her voice trembling, felt like it would change everything. "Meet me by the old oak tree," she said, urgency tinged with dread. My heart raced. What could be so urgent? When I arrived, the world held its breath. The big oak tree stood tall, its roots deep in the earth, a silent witness to our childhood secrets. Amelia stood beneath it, looking smaller than I'd ever seen, her breath quickened and distress painted on her face. "I need to tell you something," she said, her hands shaking. The leaves rustled above us, as if nature itself sensed the gravity of the moment. She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I am leaving." My world tilted. "What?" I could barely whisper. "We can't keep running, Amelia," I urged, feeling panic claw at my throat. "You don't have to do this alone." The pain of our lives crashing into each other was palpable. I felt the tears slip down my cheeks before I even realized they were there. But she was resolute. "He found out about us. Hell never let me go." The betrayal hung thick between us. The sun began to set, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch for miles, reaching for the secrets we shared. I wanted desperately to pull her back, away from the edge she was pushing towards, but the gravity of her situation was crushing. And then, amidst the sinking sun, she leaned in closer, desperation in her voice. "You don't know the whole story, and if you did, you'd understand." I felt a shiver run down my spine as an icy realization dawned on me. What could she possibly mean? Suddenly, everything she hadn't told me felt like a weight I was carrying too. But before she could explain, before I could find the words to stop her, something shifted in her expression. Fear morphed into resolve, and a flicker of hope ignited behind her trembling hands. "I can't just disappear into his world. What do I do?" And just like that, with the wind whipping around us, I knew her leap was not just physical but a plunge into the unknown. I wanted to scream, to beg her to stay, but the words were trapped in my throat. My heart thundered in my chest. What lay on the other side of that leap? I couldn't foresee it, but one thing was crystal clear: neither of us would ever be the same again. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world into twilight, yet my heart felt heavy with dread, even as it reluctantly clung to hope. As I stood there, watching Amelia's apprehension transform into steely determination, I knew I was on the precipice of change, not just for her, but for both our lives. She had spoken of an impending flight, yet all I could do was anchor myself to this moment, to the life that felt about to slip through my fingers. "He'll find a way," she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it bore the earnestness of an oath. My heart twisted painfully at the thought of helplessness filling the chasm between us. Knowing she was about to navigate treacherous waters alone filled me with an aching sorrow I couldn't articulate. "But, Amelia," I started, but she shook her head, cutting me off. I watched as she scrunched her eyes shut, her hands digging into the bark of that old oak tree, grounding herself in a moment before she leaped into the unknown. "Promise me," her voice cracked, "promise me you'll be okay, that you'll look after yourself." The word seemed to hang in the air, thick with attention, clinging to the breeze like the leaves above us. She didn't ask for my promise to stay close, she wanted a promise of survival, a lifeboat in the tempest that was her life. "I won't let go of you," I insisted, the urgency in my voice rising above the brewing night. The last thing I wanted was for her to feel completely alone, but even for me, the reality of what she faced was stark and unyielding. A soft expression crossed her face, one that held regret, fear, and something softer, gratitude. "Just promise," she demanded again, her eyes pleading through unshed tears. Something in her gaze told me she needed the reassurance as much as I needed to be her anchor, but the truth was I didn't know how to promise what I couldn't guarantee. With a heavy silence enveloping us, I nodded. "I promise." It felt empty, devoid of power, but I would cling to the hope that I could somehow stand by her, even in her absence. When she finally turned, the last slivers of waning light kissed her face, illuminating the determination that both frightened and inspired me. As she slipped away from the familiarity of our shared past, I stood frozen, one thought weighing down my heart. Everything I feared was happening. She was stepping into the world her father dominated, beyond our reach, into a realm where I couldn't save her. The days turned into a blur as I grappled with her absence. I tried to fill the void with mundane routine school assignments, poetry scribbled in the margins of my notebooks, the laughter of friends that felt hollow against the backdrop of her departure. Each day was a glimpse into a world where Amelia was somehow always missing. And then one evening, as I meandered through my neighborhood with nothing more than my thoughts for company, I stumbled upon a small crowd gathered outside a local cafe. Curiosity pulled me closer. That's when I saw her. Amelia stood at the center, a stunning form against the backdrop of strangers, illuminated by the warm glow of the cafe's lights. She was animated, her laughter rising high above the murmurs of the crowd. I felt a sharp pang. Was she truly okay, genuinely getting by without me? Each bubble of laughter from her lips felt like an echo of what we once shared, but then, my heart dropped as I noticed something. A tall, imposing figure lingered on the edge of the crowd, his presence magnetic yet suffocating. I recognized him instantly, her father. The darkness I had sensed before seemed to seep into my thoughts, tainting the vibrant scene. He was there, watching her as if waiting for the right moment to pounce. The moment I anticipated never arrived. Instead, a gust of wind lifted the tension in the air, and she caught my eye. Our gazes locked, and the world around us faded. Her smile faltered, confusion dancing in her eyes, then gave way to fear. The distance between us felt like an ocean, a rift forged by secrets, and the urgency of the past swallowed us whole. I wanted to rush to her, but I remained frozen as an even darker thought crept in. Did she truly leap away from me, or was she leaping further into her father's grip? My heart thundered as I began to step forward, driven by instinct, to call out to her. The shadows deepened further where he stood. But just as I was about to call her name, a piercing realization washed over me. She was part of something now, an intricate web that I wasn't a part of anymore. "What are you doing?" A voice hissed behind me, sharp and cold. I turned slightly, my breath hitching as I faced a girl I barely knew, a distant classmate with a sharp gaze that felt like daggers. "You can't be here. You're not part of her world now." The weight of her words dropped like a stone into the depths of my uncertainty. Amelia was trapped between the life we knew and the one her father's power had crafted around her. And I? I was still standing in the breeze, watching it all drown beneath the depths of reality. But before I could utter a word, I felt a tremor beneath my feet, a distant rumble that felt ominous, like the foreboding that preceded a great thunderstorm. The night grew darker, the air colder, and the whole cafe felt charged with a flickering energy that could spark change or herald destruction. In that moment, I realized that in this unfolding drama, we were not just players, we were both desperately seeking a way out before the curtain fell. Time was slipping, and with it, the chance to save her, or perhaps even to save myself. The days turned into a heavy blur of anguish and confusion, each moment a reminder of the widening chasm between us. Amelia's laughter became a bittersweet echo in my mind, haunting my every thought, an insistent reminder of the warmth I had lost to the cold grip of reality. I often found myself standing near that old oak, its gnarled branches seeming to whisper secrets of resilience, taunting me to find a way to reach out to her. Yet, like the tree's sprawling roots, I felt grounded in a soil rich with despair. One morning, as I trudged through the fallen leaves on a path that no longer felt familiar, a flicker of movement by the cafe caught my eye. It wasn't Amelia, but the imposing figure of her father, surrounded by a small entourage as he spoke with a fervor that left the onlookers rapt. I instinctively stepped back, feeling the pull of an unseen current drawing me deeper into the shadows. Every word he uttered seemed infused with an air of authority that threatened to shatter my already fragile resolve, but among the crowd, a familiar face emerged, trembling with a sense of unease that mirrored my own. It was Claire, Amelia's once closest friend, who had also distanced herself since Amelia's departure. Our eyes met, and a silent understanding flickered between us, the acknowledgement of betrayal, fear, and the collective weight of shared worries for Amelia. "Have you talked to her?" Claire asked, her voice barely above a whisper as she leaned in closer, scanning the group around us. I sighed, slumping against the brick wall of the cafe, feeling the fragile wall I had built against the world begin to crack. "I saw her last week with him," I confessed, the bitterness of that revelation mingling with the air around us. Claire's expression darkened. "There's something strange about him. I don't trust him. He's not just her father, he's a controlling presence that suffocates everyone. It's worse than we thought." The fire in her eyes surged, igniting something in me that I thought had long been extinguished. A newfound spark of hope ignited within my chest. "But we can't just watch this happen, Claire. She needs us." The intensity of my determination reverberated in each word. But her gaze fell, uncertainty clouding her vibrant spirit. "And how do you propose we help her? She's chosen this path, whether we like it or not. She thinks she knows what's best for her, but I fear it's only leading her down a dangerous road." Before I could offer a retort, a crash broke through our discussion. A window shattered across the street, followed by frantic yelling. The crowd lunged toward the sound, curiosity overriding caution. I hesitated, caught between fear and the instinctive pull to protect Amelia. Claire grabbed my arm, pulling me along as we navigated through the throng of bodies drawn to chaos, that electric energy in the air pivoting sharply toward unpredictability. As we rounded the corner, the sight that greeted us shook me to my Korea luxury vehicle, sleek and powerful, had skidded to a halt, its side crumpled against the curb. A figure leapt out, a flurry of chaos, her father's demeanor announced with urgency, barking orders as people rushed to help. Within that turmoil, I spotted a glimpse of Amelia inside the cafe, her face pale, drawn tight with anxiety, as she witnessed the unfolding scene from behind the glass. Time blurred as I pushed my way through the crowd, desperate to reach her, but the throngs of people pulled me in different directions. "Amelia!" I shouted above the din, the sound lost amidst the rising tide of commotion. All at once, she turned, her gaze locking onto mine. Her eyes were wide, half composed of something fierce, part raw terror. In that fleeting moment, the world between us crumbled. I saw the wall she had begun to build within herself quake as she battled against the very reality her father sought to uphold. And then there was a flicker of understanding, a flash of recognition that I was still here, still fighting. But just as I felt the pulse of hope rejuvenate the space between us, an explosion of noise erupted behind me. I spun, heart racing, to find a man brandishing a camera, yelling questions to the crowd about the accident while a small group of disheveled reporters scrambled to capture the moment. Simultaneously, I caught sight of her father, suddenly furrowed with rage, darting toward the commotion, an ominous storm brewing within him. Fear wrapped around me, squeezing tightly at the potential fallout of this chaos. "Amelia!" I called out again, desperate now. Her expression was a sheet of untouched emotion, wavering between bravery and terror. But before she could respond, I watched as her father, now completely engulfed in his own fury, turned toward us. Our eyes locked, and I felt a chill crawl along my skin, an unspoken promise laced with a vulnerability I hadn't recognized before. Yet just as quickly, confusion swirled in Amelia's gaze, and in that instant, everything became too complicated, too volatile. I couldn't reconcile the storm brewing in her father's eyes with the strength I saw in Amelia. And before I could grasp at the fleeting moment of clarity, she was slipping through the crowd, toward him and away from Mihail. I was left to confront the question of whether I could break through the barriers of his world to protect her, or if I was destined to watch her fade into that darkness. A sudden jolt of noise erupted as the crowd surged, enveloping her father in a chaos that felt like the embracing grip of darkness. All at once, a panic-stricken thought struck me: what if this was only the beginning? What if the secrets I feared were simply the tip of an impending iceberg? My heart raced as the ground shook beneath our feet, louder now than ever before, filled with the revelations of urgency and despair. I had made a promise to look after Amelia, but it felt as fragile as the autumn leaves now swirling around me, each whisper of wind a reminder that change was inevitable, and danger lurked ever closer. The crisp morning air was heavy with uncertainty as I stared after Amelia, lost in the churning mass of bodies that now stood between us. Clenching my fists, I fought against the suffocating desperation gnawing at me. I had to do something. I couldn't let her father's wrath overshadow the spark of courage I had glimpsed in her eyes. Claire stood beside me, her brow furrowed in equal parts concern and determination. "We should get out of here," she urged, her voice trembling slightly. "This isn't safe, not with him around." "No," I replied, the stubbornness in my tone surprising even myself. "I can't just walk away. Not now." Taking a deep breath, I turned back toward the cafe, where Amelia's figure had vanished behind the imposing glass. The world around me blurred, the commotion fading into an echo as I honed in on my determination. The only thing that mattered was reaching her, to ensure she knew she wasn't alone. Pushing through the crowd, I caught snatches of worried whispers and gasps of disbelief as spectators watched the chaos unfold. My heart pounded wildly in my chest, each beat fueling my resolve. When I finally reached the cafe entrance, I halted. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, a stark contrast to the warmth that lingered there just moments ago. Her father stood tall at the center, barking orders to a few well-dressed aides who scurried to comply. I looked around for Amelia, panic tightening its grip on my gut. And then, like a beacon through the haze, I spotted her sitting at a table in the far corner, her head bowed and fingers clenched around her phone. A wave of relief rushed over me, but it was swiftly eclipsed by the concern that creased her brow. I maneuvered through the cafe, dodging glances and whispers as I made my way to her. "Amelia," I whispered, my voice low but urgent, as I slid into the chair opposite hers. But her gaze remained lowered, the light in her eyes flickering like a candle in a storm. "Please, just leave," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want you to get hurt." "I'm not leaving you," I insisted, my heart strumming with a mixture of fear and resolve. "Not now, not ever." Slowly, she looked up, that fleeting glimpse of strength I had seen earlier slipping beneath the surface. "You don't understand," she said, and a tremor wove through her words. "My father is dangerous. He won't just let you walk away." The weight of her admission sank into the marrow of my bones. The gravity of her situation stood stark against the surface of her delicate smile that I once knew so well. "I don't care what he thinks, Amelia. You deserve to be free from this." Her lips parted as if to respond, but the sound of shattering glass interrupted us. A nearby window had succumbed to the pressure of the crowd's frenzied curiosity. Both of us turned instinctively toward the noise, a shared fear branding the air between us. "That's it," Amelia recoiled, her eyes widening with panic. "He's going to lose it." Fear strangled my voice as I glanced outside to see her father on his phone, his presence radiating a menacing energy. A part of me might have felt relief that he hadn't seen us yet, but that relief quickly turned to icy dread. I could sense an impending explosion, he wouldn't stand for the public scene that was already spiraling recklessly out of his control. In an instinctive move, I reached across the table and grasped her trembling hands in mine. "Listen to me, Amelia," I pressed, blood racing as I locked my gaze with hers. "We can figure this out. We can. Am I just supposed to abandon everything?" She cut in, emotion cracking her voice. "My family, my future. I can't run from my life, from him. You don't know what it's like." "Then help me understand," I urged, desperation coloring my plea. "Help me figure out a way to fight this together. It can't just be you standing against him." A flicker of something, hope, defiance, or perhaps just a glimmer of doubt flashed in her eyes as she met my gaze, but the light was quickly snuffed out by the tightening storm outside. The rapid clicking of cameras drew closer, and I could see the headlines flashing before May's daughter in peril, the untouchable billionaire's family in disarray. "No, no, no," I whispered under my breath, realizing that the chaos stemming from the crash was only the tip of the iceberg. What if the world we once knew was about to be exposed, laid bare for all to see? Suddenly, Amelia's phone buzzed violently on the table, its screen lighting up with an urgent message. She reached for it but hesitated, fear etched across her features. "It's him," she said, her voice shaking. "He knows we're together, he won't stop until." Before she could finish, the cafe door flew open, revealing her father, storming in like a harbinger of doom. The atmosphere turned electric, and the air felt thick with unspoken threats. "Amelia!" he boomed, voice reverberating through the cafe like a clap of thunder. "Get away from him. Now!" Panic surged within me, and a sense of protectiveness ignited every nerve ending in my body. "No!" I shot back defiantly before I could second-guess myself. "She's not going anywhere with you." The crowd recoiled as a deafening silence fell. I could see Amelia's eyes wide, fear intertwining with the spirit I had glimpsed earlier. And in that moment, a terrifying realization gripped me: the stakes were higher than I had ever imagined, and if I didn't act now, I could lose not just her, but the fragile connection we had fought to preserve. "Step aside," or he began, but I was already crossing the threshold of fear, willing to make a stand for the one person who had captured my heart despite the darkness, and then everything fractured. The moment hung suspended in time, teetering on the edge of catastrophe, our lives poised between choice and consequence as the storm gathered strength around us. My pulse raced as her father's furious gaze locked onto mine. The cafe felt suffocating, the air thick with the tension of unspoken words and uncertain futures. Time slowed, the reality of the situation loomed larger than life. "Do you really think you can protect her?" He laughed derisively, a cold, humorless sound that sent chills racing down my spine. "You don't know who you're dealing with." I swallowed hard, the weight of my defiance colliding with the stark realization of just what I was up against. "And you don't know what she deserves," I shot back, my voice steadier than I felt. "She deserves a chance to live her own life, not one dictated by your fear and control." With his reaction, I knew I had crossed a line. His face twisted in a mixture of fury and disbelief, and for a split second, I wondered if I'd just signed my own death warrant. "You expect me to let my daughter be influenced by someone like you? You're a nobody," he spat. Before I could answer, an unexpected voice pierced through the tension. "Mr. Carter," a familiar figure interjected, stepping between us. It was Julia, Amelia's closest friend, her features set in determination. "Now is not the time. You're scaring her." Amelia's expression shifted, and I could see the flicker of hope light her eyes. Julia had often been the voice of reason among us, grounding Amelia when her father threatened to suffocate her spirit. Perhaps she was just what we needed now. "Scaring her?" he echoed in disbelief as he glanced at his daughter. "You think that's what I'm doing? I'm trying to protect her from people like him, people like him?" Julia surged forward, her voice rising. "He's not the villain here. The real villains are the chains you've put around her, suffocating her potential, her happiness. You're so obsessed with control that you can't see your daughters being crushed beneath it. I shared a look with Amelia, her eyes were alight with a yearning that had been buried too long. I squeezed her hands, hoping to share my strength with her, urging her to take this moment to decide her own fate. Let her speak, I urged, looking back at Amelia, the vulnerability in her gaze mingling with courage. You need to decide for yourself. Her breathing grew heavier, and for an instant, I saw the embers of rebellion igniting a flame within her. Dad, she said softly, her voice trembling but steady. I've spent my life fitting into the box you built around me. I've followed the rules, done everything you wanted. But it's not enough. I'm still not happy. His rage seemed to boil beneath the surface, but even he must have sensed the shift in the atmosphere. This isn't you talking. This is him's manipulating you. He barked. Amelia shook her head fiercely, the fight igniting in her voice. No. This is me. I want to make my own choices, and I want to be with him. I felt a surge of hope, an overwhelming sense of victory mingled with trepidation. Her father's face paled for a moment, his gaze darting between us as if trying to comprehend the reality unraveling before him. No, he whispered, and the quietness of the moment, heavy with the rawness of our truth, threatened to crush us all. Then, as if the universe conspired against our fragile breakthrough, the door swung open again. A man entered, his sharp suit and piercing eyes immediately commanding attention. There was an aura of authority that surrounded him, a dark energy that matched her father's intensity. Henry, he said smoothly, addressing her father. I've been looking for you. The sudden appearance of this unknown man twisted the atmosphere, and I felt an ominous knot coil in my stomach. My heart dropped, realizing that whatever played out next could fracture everything we were bravely attempting to build. Amelia looked at me, fear shadowing her features. Who is he? She murmured. That I have no idea, I said, but the chill crawling up my spine suggested he was anything but benign. The way her father's eyes flared with both anger and recognition told me that this was no mere acquaintance. This was someone connected to their world of power and wealth, someone who had the potential to change everything. The man took another step forward, eyes scrutinizing us as his lips curled into a tight smile that didn't touch his eyes. I believe you're all in quite a predicament, he said, his voice smooth yet laced with danger. And I think it's time we had a conversation about Amelia's future. In that harrowing moment, uncertainty clouded everything. The fragile connection we had built seemed ready to shatter as external forces gathered like an encroaching storm, threatening to sweep us all away in its wake. I could only hold Amelia's hands a little tighter, knowing we were standing on the precipice of a truth that could unravel us all. Just as the newcomer took another step closer, the cafe's warm atmosphere shifted into something cold and calculating. I could see the flicker of doubt in Amelia's eyes, and it twisted painfully in my chest. What were we up against now? The unknown man had a way about him that screamed power, suggesting this wasn't a mere chat, it was a showdown. Let's not waste time, he continued, his voice smooth, yet sharp enough to cut through the growing tension. You know how this world works, Henry. We need to protect our interests, and your daughter's choices are beginning to raise concerns. Amelia's grip on my hands tightened, and I could feel her heart racing against her palm, a rhythm that matched my own rising panic. Yet, beneath that fear, determination stirred anew within her, like a fragile bloom pushing through concrete. Dad, who is he? She asked, her bravery shining through a veil of uncertainty. Someone who is here to help, her father spat back, casting a disdainful glance to the man beside him. Or at least teach you the consequences of defiance. The stranger chuckled softly, leaning slightly into Amelia's personal space, an unsettling proximity that made my blood boil. I represent interests that want what's best for you, dear. A life surrounded by privilege and protection, not some misguided love affair. He smiled, but it felt predatory. Some people aren't worth the risk. Tell me you're not serious, I shot back, stepping forward instinctively, blocking Amelia from the man's line of sight. You think she deserves to be shoved into a gilded cage just because of who she is? Love isn't a convenience, it's a choice, love. The stranger mocked, a glimmer of amusement dancing in his eyes. How quaint. But love doesn't keep the wolves at bay, young man. His gaze shifted to Amelia again. You shouldn't play with fire. You don't know the burns it could leave her alone, I warned, feeling a surge of protectiveness rise within me. This wasn't just about my feelings anymore, this was about Amelia's freedom, her future, and I couldn't let anyone take that away from her, not even for the sake of their twisted mercies. Enough. Henry shouted, his voice reverberating through the cafe, silencing the sharp exchanges. You think you understand how the world works? Have you been in it long enough to see the game? You're just two kids romanticizing a fairy tale. Amelia's face hardened, her spine going straight. Then let me decide what kind of life I want to live, Dad. I don't want to be a princess locked away in a tower, waiting for someone to rescue me. I want to make my own choices. I can't just let you go, Henry replied, his voice faltering for the first time, revealing a flicker of vulnerability beneath the cold exterior. I'm protecting you from what you don't comprehend, protecting me by suffocating me? She challenged, an edge of defiance coloring her tone. The intensity of the moment heightened with each word she spoke, but the stranger remained unfazed, eyes glinting with intrigue and mischief as he absorbed the plight between father and daughter. Let's be clear, Amelia. In the game of power, every decision comes at a price, and this charming young man may very well cost you your very future. I could feel the room closing in around us, the weight of his words, the heft of unrecognized realities. My heart raced, desperation creeping in as I sought the right words to counter this threat. Well, face whatever comes our way, together, I declared, meeting Amelia's gaze. The strength in her eyes bolstered the resolve within me, refusing to let fear dictate our lives. Henry's face paled not due to my statement, but because I could see the thought spiral within him. For a moment, I thought I saw his barrier slip, the fear of losing his daughter battling with the loss of control over her. Maybe that's not your decision to make, the stranger interjected, cutting through the silence like glass shattering. You see, Henry, I've arranged a board meeting that might shake things up. If Amelia chooses to defy you, he leaned closer to her, then I trust you understand how consequences unravel. What do you mean? I challenged, anxiety tightening like chains around my heart. Just a little business matter, he smiled, a serpent among sheep. But one that could lead to ensuring your beloved isn't just running from her father, but from her obligations as well. The implications hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. Amelia's eyes widened, horror dawning in her expression as realization set in. What have you done? Nothing yet, he shot back coolly, but, if you keep this up, I may just have to initiate a little plan of my own. After all, we wouldn't want someone as valuable as Amelia falling off the radar now, would we? The tenor of the cafe shifted irreversibly, each heartbeat echoing louder, punctuated by heavy breaths that seemed to merge with the impending storm within the room. Every fiber of my being wanted to shield her as the weight of what just transpired threatened to snare us. Will you listen to reason now? Henry asked, looking between Amelia and me, desperation creeping back into his voice. This world is unforgiving, but Amelia's expression remained resolute. Suddenly, beneath layers of fear, she whispered fiercely, I need you to trust me. Before I could respond, the door swung open again, a rush of cold air flaring the tension still thicker in the atmosphere, and a young woman entered, holding papers. The moment our eyes met, I recognized her immediately. She was familiar with both worlds, a player tugging at the threads connecting us all. Amelia, she said breathlessly, locking eyes with my dear, fearless girl. We need to talk. It's about your future. Your father. In that unguarded moment, the future felt up for grabs, yet the edges of our fragile reality began to fray. I could only wonder how tightly we'd need to hold on to each other as the forces against us closed in, intently watching our every move. The cafe felt like a pressure cooker, with the heat of unspoken emotions and unshed tears clinging in the air. I glanced at Amelia, her defiance still blazing, yet beneath it lay the fear of a looming tempest, one she couldn't fully grasp yet. The newcomer, with her documents clutched protectively against her chest, shifted her weight nervously, bringing a momentary pause to the brewing storm. Amelia, she repeated, her voice steadying as she approached the table. Please, we need to discuss everything. Henry's expression shifted, skepticism etched deep. Who are you? And why should we trust you? The woman hesitated, then lifted her chin defiantly. I'm someone who knows how this works. My name is Clara, and I've been watching from afar. She shifted her focus to Amelia, eyeing her with a mixture of concern and urgency. There are things about your family that you don't understand. Things you need to know before it's too late for what? I interjected, anxiety clawing at my insides. What do you mean, everything you're feeling, the pressure, the danger, it's all connected. There are forces at play that neither of you can fully comprehend, she explained with a gravity that weighed heavily on us. You're both caught in a web that is more complex than family conflict or adolescent love. Just say it. What's going to happen? Amelia's voice wavered slightly, betraying the tremor of fear that had begun to seep into her resolve. There's a meeting scheduled tonight. A meeting that could change everything. If you don't make a choice soon, the consequences will be dire, Clara said, her eyes reflecting both urgency and empathy. Your father and that man, she gestured toward the stranger, who had retreated to the background, watching with a predator's amusement. They have different interests, and you need to align yourself carefully. Align with who? I demanded, frustration boiling in my chest. This is our life. You can't just dictate what's best for Amelia. I am not here to dictate. I'm here to help you see the truth, Clara replied softly, her sincerity lingering in the air. Amelia, you have the potential to carve a new path, but the momentary choices you make could close doors you never knew existed. What do you want from me? Amelia asked, her resolve flickering like a candle under a gust of wind. Not what I want, but what you want, Clara replied. You're standing at a crossroads. It's time to choose your path, Amelia. Whose life do you want to live? For the first time, I saw uncertainty in Amelia's eyes. My heart ached for her as I watched the weight of responsibility press down on her slender shoulders. She was still a young woman, and now, she was being thrust into a world of decisions that felt impossibly heavy. I want to be free, she finally murmured, her voice tinged with longing and desperation. But I don't know how to make that happen. You have to trust your instincts. You have to be brave, Clara encouraged, her own voice trembling slightly, teetering between hope and despair. As if on cue, the man who had introduced chaos into our lives stepped forward again, a sardonic smile gracing his lips. A bold choice, Amelia. But how brave are you really? Because this isn't just about you. You will be saying goodbye to everything you know, everything you've been raised to protect. You'll face whatever comes, Amelia shot back defiantly, yet I could sense her fear wrapping around her heart with every word, his insidious influence already creeping in. Henry looked between his daughter and the stranger, confusion swirling within him. What does that even mean? You can't throw away everything for a dream when the real world is waiting outside that door. It means never having to shrink myself for someone else's comfort, Amelia replied, her voice steady despite the tremor I could sense beneath. I want to choose who I become, but it's dangerous, Henry pleaded, his tone more of a father than a protector now. You don't know what paths you're opening. I can't live for you, Dad, she whispered, the flicker of rebellion igniting something fierce between them. Amidst the tension, Clara's gaze landed on me, her expression softening momentarily. And you, what are you willing to risk for her? My heart raced as I searched her eyes, searching for something to latch onto, a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. I'll stand by her side no matter what, I declared, feeling the weight of both reassurance and worlds colliding around us. Is that so? The stranger stepped closer again, his smile chilling. It's nice to think that love conquers all, but you must ask yourself what you are truly willing to sacrifice for such a naive belief. The world outside the cafe began to fade away, as if we were the only people left in existence, tangled in this web of manipulation and powers beyond our control. I could feel time slipping away, every second more precious than the last. Then Clara turned back to Amelia, her expression resolute. Tonight will reveal everything. Go prepared, she whispered, then turned abruptly, leaving us standing there, caught in the aftermath of what had been unleashed, that I felt the weight of Amelia's gaze as our eyes locked, understanding passing between us like an electric current. The choices ahead felt monumental, yet uncertainty flooded my veins. As the door swung shut, sealing our fate within the cafe, I couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in, the stakes rising higher than any of us could fully grasp. The remnants of fate swirled around us, twisting into an unknown future, and as I breathed out, I felt the air thicken with dread and determination. What do we do now? Amelia asked, the tremor in her voice now devoid of the fiery resentment it once held. For tonight, we prepare, I said, squeezing her hand for strength. But we have to be ready for whatever comes next. Trust in each other, and for the love we've fought for. With every word, a silent promise was forged between us, but deep down, an unsettling feeling twisted at the edges of my sanity. They had just launched the first strike, and I feared it was just the beginning of a battle neither of us was truly prepared for. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, signaling a darkness that loomed more significant than we had anticipated. Shadows danced and whispered of secrets we had yet to uncover, and I realized that seeds of turmoil had been planted that day, ones we might not be able to control. As the cafe's door clicked shut behind Clara, I found myself wishing for light to pierce the darkness hovering ominously over us, but deep down, an ember of hope sparked, faint, yet undeniable. And as we faced the unknown, a more dreadful revelation hit me. What if love alone wasn't enough to save us? The clock on the cafe wall ticked like an impending storm, each second stretching into a heavy silence that enveloped us. I could see Amelia's mind racing, grappling with Clara's words, sculpting her face into a portrait of determination, laced with apprehension. Her hand lingered in mine, soft yet strangely unyielding, as if hoping I would anchor her against the tidal surge of fears crashing at her feet. Let's take a walk, she finally suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. The decision to leave the confines of the cafe felt monumental, as if stepping out might allow us to breathe more freely or drown more deeply. I nodded, my pulse quickening as we slowly made our way toward the door. As we stepped into the fading light of the evening, the world outside felt almost surreal, colors muted beneath the eerie embrace of twilight. There were remnants of life fluttering around us, couples obliviously lost in conversations, children playing in the distance, their laughter echoing starkly against our heavy hearts. Tonight, everything feels different, Amelia murmured, watching the shadows dance across the pavements. Different how? I asked, unsure if I truly wanted to peel back the layers we both seemed desperate to hide from. Like the world is shifting beneath my feet, she confessed, her eyes glistening. I never thought I'd be a player in a game like this. I feel so small one moment, and then so bold the next. It's confusing. A flutter of unease settled in my chest, a reminder of how little control we really had over our destinies. You're not small, Amelia, I insisted, though the uncertainty licked at my resolve. You're capable of stepping into whatever future you choose. I want to believe that, she sighed, her gaze drifting toward the park where shadows met the fading light. I could sense her grappling with the weight of her decision, and the gravity of our life had become a force we could neither escape nor embrace fully. Minutes slid into an hour as we walked side by side, the city unfolding around us until we found ourselves at a park bench. There, under the soft glow of a lamp, I spoke of dreams and possibilities, twisting each word like a thread, weaving the fabric of hope between us. But as I spoke of a future beyond this turmoil, her mind seemed a million miles away. The light in her eyes flickered, almost extinguished by unknowing doubt. I never wanted any of this, she said softly, tracing the grain of the wooden bench. This chaos, this danger, it's all too overwhelming. Maybe overwhelming is the first step to something great, I countered, wrapping my fingers around hers, feeling the warmth of her skin against mine. We can find a way through this together. Amelia's eyes met mine, and I could see the storm raging within her, a tempest of longing and melancholy battling against the walls her upbringing had constructed. Just as I opened my mouth to speak again, I noticed a figure emerge from the shadows across the park, a glint of recognition setting my heart racing. The man from earlier, the one who had taunted Amelia's resolve, was watching us with an unsettling calmness. His eyes glimmered mischievously, and the corners of his mouth turned upward in a smile that felt like a challenge. The pathways between us seemed to stretch and contract like the taut strings of a bow, ready to snap. "Looks like you haven't chosen yet," he called, his voice cutting through the evening air like a knife. "Isn't it cute, two kids lost in a fairy tale, thinking they can overcome this?" Amelia stiffened beside me, her face pale. "Why are you following us?" she demanded, trying to summon the defiance that had momentarily dimmed. "I'm not following, darling," he replied, a chilling smile dancing just beneath the surface. "I'm merely here to remind you of the stakes involved. Decisions need to be made, and I'm here to ensure you understand the repercussions." "Stay away from her," I warned, feeling adrenaline surge through me like fire. The atmosphere crackled with tension, and I knew I was treading into dangerous waters. I could feel it in the knot tightening in my stomach. He stepped closer, the shadows of night mingling with the menace in his demeanor. "You think you can protect her? You're merely a pawn in the game yourself, and she's the prize everyone wants." That I held Amelia's hand tighter, ready to shield her from whatever insidious plot he was insinuating. But I could see the fear flickering in Amelia's eyes, the fear of losing this fragile hope we had kindled amidst turmoil. "Enough," she breathed, releasing my hand and stepping toward him, her voice quaking but unmistakably edgy with purpose. "I won't be anyone's prize." His eyes widened in amusement, but the twisted smile vanished from his face. "You're braver than I gave you credit for, Amelia," he conceded, bringing a sense of gravity upon her words. "But brave decisions attract unwanted attention." Then he stepped back into the shadows, disappearing into the dim light of the park, but not before leaving behind a chilling message that hung between us long after had vanished. The stakes had felt high before, but now they twisted into something darker beneath our feet. "Is it too late to turn back?" she murmured, her voice breaking as sorrow washed over her features. "It's never too late, Amelia," I replied, desperate to restore the light in her eyes. "But we need to decide what fight we want to face together. What can we embrace, and what will we defy?" With that question lingering heavily in the air, I felt hope begin to pull us together. But as unsure as I was about the outcome, a deeper sense of dread loomed. Would the courage we summoned be enough against the storm that threatened to consume us? Our hands finally found each other again, and for the briefest moment, I felt the world settle as the tension coiled tightly around us. But instincts whispered that something was about to break within our Levisa revelation, waiting to crash upon us like an unwelcome wave. Suddenly, as uproarious laughter echoed in the distance from a group of carefree friends, my phone vibrated, shattering the moment of fragile hope. I glanced down, heart pounding, as my eyes widened at the message that flashed across the screen, reshaping everything. It was from Clara, and the word struck with a jolt of fear. "Amelia, you're in danger. They are coming for you. Leave now." Panic surged through me as I turned to Amelia, the darkness of impending doom casting shadows over our fleeting moment of resolve. In this labyrinthine game of fate, we were mere pieces dancing on a board, caught amidst forces far greater than we imagined. Our futures swayed precariously, and the fight was just beginning. The air was thick with uncertainty as I grasped Amelia's wrist, the warmth of her skin a stark contrast to the cold dread pooling in my gut. Her eyes widened, searching my face for answers that I didn't have. "What do you mean they are coming for me?" she whispered, her initial resolve cracking beneath the weight of impending danger. "I don't know," I replied, shaking my head as though I could dispel the suffocating fear that clung to us. "But we need to go. Now." Amelia stood rooted in place, the chaos swirling around us blending into a distant hum. "I can't just run. They want me to be afraid. Leaving would mean I'm giving in to that fear." Her voice trembled, revealing the fierce struggle within her to reclaim her courage. "Amelia," I urged, my own pulse racing. "Think about what's at stake here. Your choices aren't just about you anymore, they impact everyone around you. You're not just running away, you're finding safety." Her brows knitted together, and the shadows under her eyes deepened. "But what if leaving means I never get to fight back? What if I regret it?" "Regret is far less dangerous than allowing them to take away what you care about," I shot back, my heart thudding against my ribs. I felt my grip on her tightening, knowing our moment of normalcy was slipping through our fingers like sand. Amelia turned her gaze to the park, where laughter had become a haunting echo of a carefree world we no longer belonged to. She took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling with the kind of determination that left a trail of warmth in the space between us. "I want to face this," she said, steel creeping back into her voice. "I want to confront whoever these people are." A flicker of admiration surged inside me, but it was overshadowed by the apprehension gnawing at my insides. "Amelia, I don't want to lose you," I confessed, my voice low. "And I can't bear to watch you face danger when there's another choice." She cut me off, her resolve crystallizing with every syllable. "I refuse to hide. Not anymore. I have to own my story, even if the plot twist takes me down a dark path. I can't let them define me." In that moment, something shifted, a renewed pulse of hope sparking between us. Perhaps this was the fight we had to embrace, the choice to confront the shadows rather than flee. "Okay," I finally conceded, swallowing the fear that waged war inside me. "But we do this together. Whatever comes next, you won't face it alone." And just like that, with the fragile threads of mutual trust restitched, we began to walk forward, the shadows of uncertainty dancing closer around us. But as night deepened, an unsettling thought niggled at my mind. Was facing this danger truly the best decision for us? Or had we unknowingly stumbled into a trap of our own making? The park stretched into greater darkness, and the laughter that once seemed so vibrant was now a ghostly reminder of the life outside our escalating storm. We approached the edge of the park, a place where streetlights flickered like memories of safety, when suddenly, Amelia stopped dead in her tracks. "What is it?" I asked, turning to find her face pale, eyes wide with realization. She stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "I think I know who they are. I've seen them before." Panic surged through me. "What? Who?" Her breath quickened as she stepped back, glancing around with guarded apprehension. "It was at that charity gala I attended last month. There were whispers, people talking about my family's fortune in ways that made it clear I wasn't just an heiress to them. I was a target." Before I could respond or pull her closer, a shadow separated itself from the dim alley just beyond the park, stepping into the light a woman whose presence bore the hallmarks of authority and danger. Her eyes, piercing and cold, locked onto Amelia's with a clarity that tightened a fist around my heart. "You shouldn't have made a choice, Amelia." The stranger's voice was smooth, but there was a palpable threat laced within each word. "Now you've attracted unwanted attention." Suddenly, the world around us narrowed into a singular point of focus. The woman before us, the hard reality of decisions made too late, and the knowledge that our fight was no longer a question of what might bite was a raging storm barreling toward us, with no way to turn back. "Stay back!" I shouted, instinct kicking in as I stepped in front of Amelia, shielding her from the icy stare of the stranger. But as the woman smiled with a twisted sense of satisfaction, I felt something far more unsettling in my gut. This was only the beginning, and the battle line had been drawn. The tension hung in the air thick enough to slice through, leaving nerves frayed and hearts racing. I could feel Amelia's breathing quicken as I stepped in front of her, an instinctual move to shield her from whatever dark intentions lay ahead in the woman's chilling gaze. But I wasn't sure what I was truly protecting her from anymore. "Your shadow games are tiresome, Amelia," the woman said, a mocking lilt coloring her words. "The moment you chose to defy your father, you painted a target on your back. It's a game of survival now, and you're out of your league. Leave us alone." I shouted out, rallying every fiber of my being into my voice. The woman wore an enigmatic smile, her eyes glinting with the kind of sly amusement that thrived in darkness. "A fight without strategy leads only to devastation, dear," she replied, the mockery simmering just beneath the surface. Sensing the danger threatening to engulf us, I turned to Amelia, whose eyes pierced mine with an intensity that set my heart racing. "I'm not afraid," she said, strength coursing through her trembling frame. "I won't let fear dictate our choices anymore." But her voice trembled, and I could see the fear lurking beneath the surface. The woman laughed softly, a sound that chilled the air between us. "Bravery without wisdom is a well-dressed tragedy. You really have no idea the depths of your family's connections. You think love can shield you? I know how hard I've fought for my own choices. Amelia countered fiercely. And I won't back down just because you want to intimidate me. The woman's smile faded, and for the first time, I saw something akin to respect flicker across her features. Incredible defiance tempered with naivete. But this is about more than you, Amelia. You're dancing on the edge of a knife, and one wrong move could send you tumbling into the abyss. I'm willing to take that risk if it means helping those who matter, Amelia proclaimed, the fire in her voice igniting a determination within me. Then brace yourself for the fallout, the woman said smoothly, as she turned to leave. Wait! I shouted, the remnants of our confrontation hanging there. Tell us what happens next. Driven by fear, I stepped forward, reaching out for any shreds of understanding. But she merely turned her head over her shoulder, her enigmatic presence slipping further into the shadows as the darkness swallowed her whole. We'll meet again, she said, her voice echoing like a lingering wind chilling the air. And by then, the choices you think you're making might already be made for you. With that warning hauntingly delivered, she vanished into the night, leaving us in a suffocating silence that wrapped a shroud of uncertainty around us. Do you really think we can make it through this? I asked, the doubt slipping into my voice, momentarily wrestling with the newfound clarity blooming in Amelia's eyes. That I have to believe we can, she said quietly, reaching for my hand, her touch sending warmth surging through me. But it's going to take everything we have. We walked through the city, each step heavy with unspoken fears. The beauty of life around us seemed almost mocking against the intensity building within our minds, heavy questions, swirling possibilities, and shadows whispering dark promises. Suddenly, Amelia stopped, a fire igniting within her as she faced me. If they want to play a game, then let's play it. But this time, we'll be the players, not the pawns. I tilted my head, surprised by the resolve painting her features with strength. What do you have in mind? A way to expose their game, she said, determination flashing in her gaze. We need to go to the heart of it all, the meeting they mentioned. Well, gather information, find allies. Maybe even unravel the layers of protection my father has set around me. Adrenaline surged through me as I understood her plan, but doubt lingered like a shadow. But it's risky. It's riskier to stay hidden in the shadows, she replied, her voice vibrant with newfound clarity. I won't let fear box me in. I need to take control of my life, even if it turns it upside down in the process. I could only admire the fierce independence radiating from her. It ignited a warmth within my chest, urging me to match her courage. All right, let's take this fight together. We can be the architects of our own futures. The call of unity flickered into our hearts, shining like a beacon in the darkness. Yet, even as we prepared for the challenges ahead, a gnawing fear settled beneath the surface, a sense of impending chaos we weren't fully equipped to handle. We took each unsteady step forward toward the unknown, promising each other we'd face whatever came our way, but even hope had a taste of bitterness, and I could feel the winds shifting as we ventured deeper into the storm. But then suddenly, as we moved through the dark streets, the phone in my pocket buzzed violently, drawing my attention. My heart raced as I pulled it out, seeing Clara's name flash across the screen. Answer it, Amelia urged, trepidation rising within her. With a quick glance at my surroundings, I pressed to accept the call, but before a word could escape my lips, Clara's frantic voice poured through the speaker. You need to get out of sight. They are watching everything. I don't have much time, but I found information. Clara, what are you talking about? I pressed, heart pounding. Your location is compromised, he knows. If he finds you even close. Clara's words were cut short, replaced by static, and I could almost sense the urgency in her voice dying out. Clara! I shouted, gripping the phone tighter. But the line went silent. Panic surged through me as I turned to Amelia, whose eyes mirrored the fear flooding my heart. We have to move now, I urged, adrenaline surging through me as I grabbed her hand, the pounding of my heart synchronizing with the urgency in my voice. This is bigger than we imagined. We raced through the city, dodging away from the familiar landmarks, shadows becoming our allies as we pressed on. Behind us, the escalating chaos flared, warning us of the impending danger that loomed, already palpable in the air. Every heartbeat raced against the clock, and as the whirlwind of uncertainty blurred past us, the realization smacked me hard: this was only the beginning. Fear threaded itself tightly around the truth, and hope tangled within the strands of uncertainty. But as we ran, I realized this was the moment when all paths converged, that somewhere within the haze of confusion, a chance at redemption, connection, and destiny awaited us. And so, beneath the weight of 1,000 insecurities and dangers, all I could do was look forward, holding Amelia's hand tightly in mine, because standing together against the darkness was the only way we could find our light. In that moment, everything clicked into place, and I understood, perhaps for the first time, that love was not just a shield but a fiery force that could illuminate the darkest paths laid out before us, one courageous step at a time. The final confrontation loomed ahead, and as we plunged ourselves deeper into the fray, something was beginning to awaken within me, the fortitude to face what lay ahead, because against the dark tide, love would be our fiercest weapon. As the streetlights flickered overhead, illuminating the shadows cast by our journey, I tightened my grip on Amelia's hand, setting my resolve to protect her, no matter the brutal cost. Because as heavy darkness loomed ahead, underneath the weight of our fears and doubts, I saw a flicker of light, our future glimmering on the horizon, waiting for us to reach out and take hold. And in that moment, I surrendered to the truth that began to settle into my heart: there was nothing I wouldn't risk to stand by her side through the storm. This was it, our chance to fight back. Tomorrow would come, but together, we would carve a new destiny into the pages of our story, because in the end, love was not just enough, it was everything.